The cruise ship's deadly affair, seduction, murder, and a chilling twist that will haunt you. The Ocean's Embrace was meant to be a paradise on the water, a luxurious cruise liner that sailed through the crystal blue Caribbean. It was everything one could dream of: white sand beaches, endless cocktails, and breathtaking views. But as the ship cut through the night, a darker, more sinister force stirred beneath its gleaming decks. A force that would pull everyone aboard into a web of seduction, murder, and unimaginable horror. Sophie, an ambitious artist, needed a fresh start. She boarded the Ocean's Embrace to escape the stifling grind of her daily life, a chance to clear her mind and find inspiration. Little did she know, her arrival would set in motion a terrifying chain of events. On her first night, she met him, Marcus. Tall, dark, and disturbingly charming. His magnetic presence was impossible to resist. There was something dangerous in his eyes, but Sophie, desperate for excitement, ignored the warning signs. The flirtations began innocently enough, a glance here, a smile there, but by the time they shared their first kiss under the moonlight on the private deck, the ship had already begun to reveal its darkest side. Sophie and Marcus quickly fell into a whirlwind affair, their stolen moments full of passion and secrecy. The heat of the night mirrored their intensity, but as the hours passed, Sophie felt a creeping unease, as though something, or someone, was watching them. It wasn't long before the first disappearance shook the passengers. Greg, a wealthy entrepreneur, had been last seen on the upper deck, where Sophie and Marcus often met. The ship's crew dismissed it as a typical passenger leaving early, but Sophie couldn't shake the feeling that something far more sinister was at play. Whispers spread among the passengers, but no one dared speak openly. With each passing day, more people vanished, their rooms empty, their belongings untouched. The Ocean's Embrace was becoming a ship of secrets, and Sophie felt like she was being drawn into its dark underbelly. Suspicion gnawed at her. She began to notice strange things about Marcus. His nervous glances, the way he seemed to vanish for hours at a time, the way he spoke in cryptic tones when he thought no one was listening. But the final chilling clue came when Sophie overheard a conversation in a darkened hallway. The ship's captain and a few crew members were discussing the disappearances, but what made Sophie's blood run cold was the mention of the Collector. It was a name she hadn't heard before, but one that chilled her to the bone. The Collector wasn't a person, it was a twisted game. One where passengers were lured into a trap, their fears exploited, their lives extinguished in the most horrifying ways. Terrified, Sophie confronted Marcus, demanding to know the truth. That's when the unthinkable happened. Marcus confessed, but his words were more disturbing than she could have ever imagined. He wasn't just a part of the ship's dark scheme, he was the mastermind behind it. The entire affair, the seduction, it had all been orchestrated to lure Sophie deeper into his trap. Marcus revealed that the Ocean's Embrace wasn't just a luxury cruise, it was a hunting ground. The ship's owner, a shadowy billionaire, used it as a way to collect the souls of the rich and powerful. The passengers were nothing more than prey. As the night descended into chaos, Sophie realized she wasn't the only one caught in Marcus's deadly game. The ship's passengers were nothing more than pieces on a twisted chessboard. Each one had been carefully chosen, their weaknesses exposed, their deepest desires manipulated. The disappearances were no accidents. They were sacrifices, part of a ritual that had been carried out for years. The truth was far worse than Sophie could have imagined. Marcus had been manipulating her from the start. The affair, the passion, the moments of tenderness, it had all been a carefully crafted illusion. The deeper Sophie fell for him, the closer she came to becoming the final piece of the Collector's twisted collection. But the final twist would be the most horrifying of all. As the storm raged outside and the Ocean's Embrace began to list, Sophie realized there was no escape. The ship was sinking, its dark secrets exposed to the world. Marcus was not just a man, he was a part of the ship's curse, a centuries-old pact that had bound him to the Ocean's Embrace for eternity. And as the waves crashed against the hull, Sophie understood what he had planned all along. The ship wasn't just going down, it was taking everyone with it. With the lights flickering and the screams of the dying echoing through the halls, Sophie made one final, desperate bid for survival. But as she reached the lifeboats, a cold, icy hand gripped her shoulder. Marcus was still with her, his twisted smile the last thing she would ever see.